buddy. All right. So funny. It's like I seize up once it goes live. But I'm fairly new to this on TikTok, so I'm learning. But welcome everybody. So my name is Angus, right? I also go by Angus by design. And for the first little bit, I'm just gonna kind of get settled in. I'm gonna get a little bit more comfortable. This is Bo H. Regard. My practice is that, so my goal is within the next 60 minutes. And that's the goal because then I can repost this. But the goal is to read from this book. The book is by the Shambhala Dragon Editions, Insight Meditation, The Practice of Freedom. And it's written by Joseph Goldstein. And this was originally published in 1993. And it says it's dedicated to those whose generosity and love of the Dharma have made possible so many things. So I'm going to start reading. Yesterday I read up until page 16. So I'm going to start at signposts and then I'm going to pull a card from the Gaia Oracle. And what I do, I like to do that because to me it's like a check balance system. So it's like I read a little bit because I want to discern what it is, right? And welcome everybody. Glad people are starting to join. But I like to sort of review. So I'm just about to start to read from this. It's just for a reflection practice. And then I'm going to pull a card. So you're welcome to tune in. This space might be a little bit different than what you're used to. I don't have any expectations here. This is just a practice that I'm doing for my own wellness, my own contemplation. But I've been a Reiki master since 2007. I really believe in energy. I believe that through like meditation, through thoughtfulness, through breathing exercises, and actually just the radical action of sitting on our asses, we can feel better and get better. You'll see a little monkey looking in a mirror. That's me. This person in this frame, if you ever get a chance, his name is Nelson Sullivan, and he's an artist that kind of started, I think, in community television. He's from New York, and he was just part of the art scene, and he was known for carrying around a VHS camcorder. But he filmed some pretty cool stuff. So Nelson Sullivan's World of Wonder. Behind that's just like a memento from a comedy show that I used to produce. And then this is a family rap book. It's RAP stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. So I live with anxiety, PTSD, borderline, other labels. But I mostly know those as just like explanations, I guess. But action planning really helps, and I'm an advanced facilitator for that. So it's something that I've put a lot of time and effort into, but it's a program essentially from the core principle that, there's no one set answer for everybody. That, really our recovery means incorporating everything. So it's a way of looking at how we feel better and get better. So, signposts. Nothing we do creates the unconditioned. Everything arising in this mind and body is a conditioned phenomenon. All elements of experience arise and pass, conditioned by causes. The unconditioned is uncaused, unborn, beyond all arising and passing. The unconditioned is there. It has always been there. It is not something created in time. It is not something created at all. We would call it the ground of being, or the ultimate reality, or nirvana, or the unborn. There are countless names for it. And just as the path that goes to a mountain does not cause the mountain, the path of practice leads us to this highest freedom, but does not cause it. What we do is walk on this path, and when the conditions are right, the mind opens. That opening can happen at any time. There are some signposts along this path that are common to many, although people can also open in many different ways. The Buddha often taught that wisdom comes from concentration of mind. We can develop this steadiness of attention by connecting with the arising object, like the breath, and then sustaining our awareness of it. Once we develop stability of attention, instead of our struggling to keep our mind in the present, it more naturally just abides there. Although at times our attention will slip off the object. Getting lost in some thought, the momentum of awareness and concentration has reached the point where the attention spontaneously rebounds to a place of mindfulness and calm abiding. That becomes the place where we reside. With the power of concentration as the foundation, we then begin to observe the mind and body from a range of different perspectives, different stages of experience. We go through periods of tremendous happiness and clarity, of real brilliance of consciousness, of seeing things with extraordinary luminosity. These periods do not these periods do not last. We then go through stages of opening to deeper and deeper understandings of suffering. Opening to that side of the Dharma is not theoretical. Our understanding of suffering comes from feeling it directly in our own life and practice. So we have the experience of tremendous joy and luminosity. And we also have the experience of great suffering. Then we come to a place of profound equanimity. Having been through those of other stages, our mind matures to a place where it is no longer moved. It does not grasp at pleasant things. It is not repelled by unpleasant things. Our mind attains deep, deep balance, like a calm, deep flowing river. Out of this mature place of equanimity, the conditions arise that open our mind suddenly to the unconditioned, to what is beyond body and mind, to freedom. So one of the things that I do is I also like to see how many kind of people popped in. For me, that's like all energy. So I kind of dedicate this practice to everyone that sort of lays eyes on it. People have historically left hearts and stuff with what resonates, or they'll leave something in the chat box, like a note or something, or words of encouragement or what have you. Like all of that to me is part of the practice of just kind of creating like a positive, healthy space, I guess. So I'm just reading from the Insight Meditation, which is the Practice of Freedom, by Joseph Goldstein. And he has a lot of, if you look him up, this book is from 94, but if you look him up, he still is active in teaching. So grace or help along the way. So moment to moment awareness. That is one accurate way to describe the great enterprise of becoming free. But there are other valid ways to characterize our path in the broadest conception of the path. In the vast context of spiritual practice, we cultivate and nourish certain qualities that support and propel us forward into freedom. The Pali word parami refers to 10 wholesome qualities in our minds and the accumulated power they bring to us: generosity, morality, renunciation, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolve, loving kindness, and equanimity. The fact that we do not find the word grace used by schools of Buddhism may allow us to connect with a fresh and immediate sense of the word by looking directly at our own experience. I feel that the paramis are one great influence in our experience that corresponds to the sense of grace, not as a theological doctrine or metaphysical concept, but as something we can really feel and know. The concept of parami reminds me of a line in a poem by Dylan Thomas. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower. Parami does not come from being outside ourselves. Rather, it comes from our own gradually accumulated purity. A Buddhist understanding of reliance on a higher power would not necessarily involve reliance on some supernormal being. It is rather a reliance on these forces of purity in ourselves that are outside our small, constricted sense of I, and that constitute the source of grace in our own lives. In the long course of evolution, In this lifetime, and perhaps over many lifetimes, we have generated a power of purity in our mind by acts of generosity and loving kindness, by deepening and understanding and wisdom. This power becomes the karmic force that brings blessings into our life. So our own inner development, not an external agent, brings us this grace. Develop and strengthen the paramis within you, and from that source, enjoy the blessings that result. A poem by Galway Kinnell beautifully expresses the grace of blessings from within. So Saint Francis and the Sow. The bud stands for all things, even for those things that don't flower. For everything flowers from within of self-blessing. Though sometimes it is necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness, to put a hand on the brow of the flower and retell it in words and in touch. It is lovely until it flowers again from within of self-blessing, as Saint Francis put his hands on the creased forehead of the sow and told her in words and in touch blessings of earth on that sow. And the sow began remembering all down her thick length, from the earthen snout all the way through the fodder and slops to the spiritual curl of the tail, from the hard spinniness spiked out from the spine down through the great broken heart, to the sheer blue milk and dreaminess spurting and shuddering from the 14 cannot be found within the contraction of ego identification. The practice of Buddha Dharma awakens us to an underlying reality beyond that identification. As the paramis develop through our practice, and they have been developing over lifetimes, we experience an emergence of something called Dhammoya in Pali, the essence of Dharma. In deepening meditation practice, we drop out of the conceptual realm into an energy flow of awareness. Dhammoya is this energy that keeps pushing us to liberation. It is something greater than our limited sense of self. I had a strong experience with Dhammoya during one of my periods of practice in Burma. I had been in Asia for several months and was rapidly losing weight and physical strength. At one point, my body became so weak that I would actually topple over from my sitting position. But even in this very weakened bodily condition, the energy from the inner flow of awareness remained so strong that the meditation continued to unfold. It was as if nothing could stop the onward leading momentum. This experience reminded me of those stories of the Buddha visiting people who were sick and dying. He would often say to them, "Though your body is weak and full of pain, train your mind to stay alert and mindful." A taste of Dhammoya shows us that we can actually do what the Buddha advised. Another understanding of grace comes from the Buddhist worldview that recognizes beings on other planes of existence. In traditional Buddhist cultures, people believe that devas, or celestial beings from higher planes, can work to protect, guide, and help us in different situations. So the Buddha taught us that devas are drawn to us through the power of our virtue and loving kindness. As we cultivate and purify our own morality and love, we open ourselves to receive their positive energy and beneficent help. So you may or may not choose to believe this aspect of Buddhist cosmology. Our freedom does not depend on external things. You can come to full liberation whether or not you find devas credible. But a phrase from Coleridge might suggest a useful attitude, the willing suspension of disbelief. Can we remain open to possibilities of things we do not yet know for ourselves? With neither blind belief or blind disbelief? Many things that today seem commonplace in our world 100 years ago would have been called miracles. Although strong hidden influences, given the right conditions, can assist us, they cannot accomplish the work of spiritual practice for us. The beneficence of external beings like devas is secondary to the inwardly developed liberating force of Dhammoya and the paramis. So reflecting on our own paramis can be a great help in practice. The force of delusion is so strong that most beings never see the possibility of coming out of suffering. The very notion that the mind can be purified of greed, hatred, and delusion never even occurs to most people. Only a vast reservoir of parami brings us to practice and creates the motivation and interest to do this difficult, ultimately liberating work. Appreciating the paramis within ourselves can be a cause for great self-respect and joy. Often in the midst of the many ups and downs of practice, we forget just how powerful the paramis are in each one of us. They engender true grace in our lives. So welcome everyone. We've had 67 sets of eyes go through here so far, which is really great. The next is the role of a teacher, and then I'm going to shuffle the Gaia cards and pull one in a little bit as I wind down the practice, but it's great to see so many eyes. So the role of a teacher. Dharma practice takes us to the edge of what is known. Mostly in our life, we create for ourselves a domain of comfort where everything is in place and we know where we stand. Often, our mind builds strong defenses to maintain reassuring stability in our inner realm. But this security also limits us to the familiar, to the easily recognized. There are worlds of experience and ways of being that lie beyond the habits of our conditioning. Do we have the courage of heart and spirit to explore the unknown? A teacher, guide, and spiritual friend can be of inestimable help on the path. Such a person can reveal what is hidden, point out the path, and inspire our highest aspirations. As we pass the boundaries of familiarity, we experience suffering and happiness in new and unexpected ways. Sometimes suffering spurs our efforts to be free. At other times, we simply become mired in patterns of suffering, unable to find our way out. Happiness can trap us even more. There are many nice resting places along the spiritual path. We begin to feel more peaceful, more in harmony, better adjusted, and more accepting. We relate better to others. Our life gets easier, and we may decide to settle into this place of ease for a nice long rest. A good teacher knows when a student is stuck, either in suffering or in a conditioned kind of happiness. Employing a variety of skillful means, the teacher uses everything as fuel for the fire of awakening. At times, we need encouragement and loving support. At other times, perhaps a fierce wake-up call. I have appreciated this skill so much in U Pandita Sayadaw, my Burmese meditation teacher. No matter what glorious experience I have reported to him, he has seemed to remain unimpressed. Although at times I have felt disappointed, he has given me the gifts of not settling for anything less than liberation. Another wonderful teacher, Neosho Ken Rinpoche, pointed to the highest freedom in a different manner. I had gone to see him for an interview, telling him about various meditation experiences. He said, "The price of gold goes up and down, but the nature of gold remains the same. Many experiences come and go in meditation, but the pure nature of the mind abides, both by words and presence." A teacher helps us not to get caught in temporary appearances. One area of difficulty can arise in the teacher-student relationship is confusion between power and authority. In all domains of life, we encounter people who have been more understanding than we do about certain things, or who have more understanding, than we do about certain things. Acknowledging that difference opens us to learning from such people. So it helps us keep a beginner's mind. But acknowledging someone's understanding in a particular area should not be confused with conquering or conferring power. We can welcome guidance, instruction, and inspiration without abandoning our own inner moral sense. Problems related to power may come from both sides. Teachers may have had some genuine level of realization, but may not yet be fully liberated, and so At times, they may act from places of ignorance. Students may be too willing to surrender their own powers of discriminating wisdom in the name of spiritual humility. We often mistakenly assume that because someone has genuine understanding in one particular area, this mastery necessarily extends to all other areas of life. That may or may not be true. So in the Theravada tradition of Buddhism, the teacher is considered a Kalyanamitti, a spiritual friend. A true Kalyanamitta acts out of kindness and compassion for the suffering of beings. When we recognize a natural authority in teachers because of their wisdom, their knowledge, their compassion, and when they act from a natural authority, not from some less skillful place of power, then we can benefit immeasurably from their guidance. The relationship between teacher and student can be the greatest blessing of a student's life. It also has the potential for danger and abuse. Acknowledging both of these possibilities helps us distinguish between the two. So welcome. I'm just reading from Joseph Goldstein's Insight Meditation, The Practice of Freedom. My practice is basically to just read, kind of being a little bit more relaxed. My dog Bo is laying there. And then I just open up the channel here and just kind of hold space. And then I'll probably stop in a little bit and pull a card. And I like to sort of look at the stats here. So it's like so far like 75 sets of eyes have gone through. So I really kind of, what I do is I just dedicate the energy, or I'm a Reiki master. I'm part of Reiki, which is like universal life energy. Part of my practice is what's called distance Reiki. And it's where I think about people who maybe need a little extra support or love or care or good intentions or whatever. And then I can kind of honor that by being the energy that they need, right? So this is Roads to Fulfillment. The Buddha taught about 4 paths or roads to success, to fulfillment, roads that lead us onward. They are 4 different qualities of character, each reflecting a different strength of personality. If we can recognize which of them is our own particular strength, then we can build on that power we already have. We can do what has to be done. Sometimes people have the idea that to practice the Dharma means to live without passion, without fire. That it means cool and detached passivity. This is a very mistaken notion. Each of the 4 roads to power involves a tremendous passion, a great fire within us. For those of us in whom that passion stirs, the Dharma becomes the paramount commitment of our lives. The first road to success that can fuel our commitment is zeal, the strong desire to accomplish something. When we feel this quality, we sense that nothing can finally impede us. We feel that we will not be satisfied until we have realized our goal. Sometimes when I think of this quality, I think of the extraordinary enthusiasm and motivation of Olympic athletes, or great musicians, or anyone who has brought something to perfection. The quality of zeal, the ardency carries them through their lives. I'm going to do this. I'm going to accomplish this. And they do, based on that strength of mind, that unwavering sense of purpose. So, desire to do, a powerful aspiration and motivation, is one of the four roads to success. Right. It's good to see all these folks. My computer goes to sleep after a little bit. Yeah, I've got a bit of time. So the second road is the quality of energy. So a person who has this resolute determination of heart feels challenged by the thought. This undertaking requires great effort. I can do it. Such a person not only remains undaunted by the effort required, but also finds inspiration in the challenge. It is the sense. Whatever can be accomplished by effort, that I can do. Some time ago, I read a newspaper article about the death of the legendary racehorse Secretariat. The article beautifully eulogized this horse's courageous heart, describing how that courage manifested so superbly in all those races. Then we act from that place of heart, putting out effort without holding anything back. We develop tremendous strength and power. Diploma, one of my teachers from India, exemplified this quality of heroic effort. There were times in her practice when she was very ill, so weak that she had to crawl up the stairs to the meditation hall to continue her meditation. Nothing daunted her. The last time I saw her before she died, Diploma turned to me and said, you should sit for 2 days. She did not mean a 2-day retreat. She meant one sitting, 2 days long. Just sit for 2 days. And when she said this, I started to laugh because it seemed so beyond my capacity. She looked at me with deep compassion and said, don't be lazy. Diploma had an astonishing capacity for effort, and it brought her the kind of result that strength of mind brings. People with this power, this characteristic, who have this strong ability to make effort, are not disheartened by how long it takes, how difficult it is. It takes months. It takes years. It doesn't matter because the courage of the heart is there. The Buddha also exemplified this quality. Before his awakening, when he was still seeking the truth just as we seek it, he made this determination. If the end is attainable by human effort, I will not rest or relax until it is attained. Let only my skin and sinews of bones remain. Let my flesh and blood dry up. I will not stop the discourse, or I will not stop the course of my effort until I win that which may be won by human ability, human effort, and human exertion. The third road to success is strong love for the Dharma, the love for the truth that keeps our mind continually absorbed in the practice. This love has great purity of consciousness and is extremely ardent. When you first fall in love, in the ordinary worldly sense, your mind fills with thoughts of your beloved. Love for the Dharma that love for the Dharma has that level of intensity. It becomes a path to understanding when it fills our minds. We continually reflect on the Dharma, practice it. Nothing else seems equally important. Such love for the Dharma keeps us going. It is our highest love, our highest value. The last of the roads to success is the quality of inquiry, of investigation. Some people have a strong interest in understanding the deepest and most profound aspects of the teachings. They are not satisfied to know just the surface of things. This kind of mind contemplates the immensity of samsara, this round of rebirths, the immensity of the planes of existence, and the implications in our lives of this vastness of vision. A person with such fervent inquiry investigates and understands the potential of suffering and the possibilities for freedom. Such a person takes the deepest satisfaction in probing and investigating the profound mysteries of consciousness. Someone endowed with any one of these four bases of power will undoubtedly come to liberation. We may free ourselves through the power of zeal. The great desire and motivation to follow the path, we may do it through the quality of heroic effort, and effort that cannot be stopped. We may come to awakening through our absorption in and love for the Dharma, or we may experience freedom through the power of investigation, the need to know and understand. Any one of these can be our path to fulfillment. Our work is to recognize where our own strengths lie and to practice from that place of strength, to develop it, to cultivate it, and to make it even stronger. Our great life challenge is to do the work of awakening, to see the path of practice lies in bringing these liberating qualities of heart and mind to each moment. The path of awakening is moment to moment. It is right here. Can we hold this vision and be complete in our attention in this moment? Can we be deeply inspired by what is true, remembering that our practice is never just for ourselves? We practice for the benefit and welfare of all beings. The Buddha pointed out the four roads to success, and the rest is up to us. So that's the end of the first part, which is great because there's about 15 minutes left. Tomorrow I'll start into part 2, which is how we practice purpose, effort, and surrender, it says, etc., etc. And again, this is written by Joseph Goldstein, who's the co-founder of the Insight Meditation Society in Massachusetts. where he's one of the resident guiding teachers. He's the author of The Experience of Insight, a simple and direct guide to Buddhist meditation, and the co-author of Seeking the Heart of Wisdom, the Path of Insight meditation. He has a podcast also on the Be Here Now network, which is available through ramdas.org. And yeah, so I'm going to shuffle the card. I see there, is it Kalilula? Thanks for joining me for so long. If you want to use the chat box or give a thumbs up, it'd be great to just share this shuffle with you. See what we can kind of come up with. The way I do it is, I just sort of contemplate on what I just read. What I like about it is it's, talking about the Four Noble Truths. So that's just like a summary or a generalization of it, of course. But then, looking at that pathway where once we kind of have the foundation, so we know that we know suffering exists, we know there's an end of suffering. Kind of nice to have as a template, right? Just like I was sharing, I like using tools like action plans and stuff like that, safety action plans, and so yeah, so that's what I'm gonna put through here. And we'll see what the Gaia says. I usually do I have an animal oracle deck that I usually, it's like my go-to, but I like to play it up a little bit. I have one about trees and one about just the universe having our backs. And then it looks like there are like about 93 people in the last hour. So, all right. So I'm just going to pull this one. And so it says, ocean of eternal love, healing, creativity, and fertility. That's sort of the image. I love the idea of an ocean of eternal love, especially if I'm feeling a little bit kind of introverted, I guess, or in on myself. The idea of it being able to expand and there being an eternal ocean of love. I also think of it as ocean of eternal love. I also sort of think of it as that thing where, if we have people from our past or people that we have, adored or devoted ourselves to, that we can tap into that too, right? Whenever we need. So the card, I'll hold it up and read it. That's the card. So healing, creativity, and fertility. It is said that love conquers all. That is especially true for you at the moment. Something is resolved and healed through love. What was previously barren now becomes fertile. A seed is planted, and you are the co-creator. The conditions are favorable. The timing is right. And a new creation awaits you. The birth of something new brings joy and excitement. The forever changing seasons of eternity turn their invisible wheel, and a new cycle begins. A new image is born. And the affirmation is love heals, love brings resolution, love conquers, love creates, and love is eternal. So those are great. It's a great message. I really like that idea about, Canadian winters are a perfect example of that. Like, go outside and when I look at, right now the ground's frozen. It's covered. I have a tree. I live on the 5th floor, in an apartment building, and I actually have a tree that comes halfway up my window, and right now it's completely barren. Just a big tall stick. But then in the spring, I actually get to see it, and I see the buds start on it. And then those buds turn into full bloom. And I can look down the tree and I can see the ground, or I can go down and I can look up and I can see just how far the tree reaches, including to my apartment. And who knows how many years from now, when I'm still here looking at my window, maybe the tree will reach the 6th floor. That's just how it goes, right? Time. Just like me, I'm about to turn 50. And 30 years ago, I was sure my life was over. I was sure that there was nowhere to go. I was certain there was nobody who was going to love me, and that I would just keep experiencing the same type of suffering. And then, so 30 years ago, I moved here to the city I'm in, Ottawa, and I proved myself wrong. And then for about a decade, I worked at a whole bunch of jobs, did a whole bunch of things, really overcame a lot of anxiety though, and got to work my way up. And eventually I was able to pay for therapy from a therapist that wasn't just who I happened to land in front of, or, and that therapist taught me and practiced on me all kinds of techniques. And by the time I saw her, I was well over 500 pounds. I lived in a constant state of anxiety and self-doubt, and I was just a hot mess. But the story I would tell of myself, right? It was almost like I believed that I deserved that. And so she taught me mindfulness. And one of the ways she taught me mindfulness was by inviting me to a workshop that she was holding. And it was a Reiki level 1 workshop. And really that was just to learn kind of what Reiki is about, how Dr. Mikao Usui had created it, and how he discovered it, and who he was, and some of the symbolism behind it. But then the sort of homework from that was to do self-Reiki and practice it and practice those principles. And I remember I just really thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to achieve becoming a Reiki master. And I'll be able to connect not only with myself, but with others. And really it was through that mindfulness that I realized that I was trapped in that body. I was carrying an extra 300 pounds. And then I just really became aware of that body and aware of all that weight, whereas I had just always carried it, thinking I always had to. And so I became a Reiki master eventually. And my mindfulness eventually led me down a path to get medical support and mental health support and set goals. And I eventually had surgery that would start me down the path of losing the weight. And my gosh, it's been a real trip. But, you know, at 30, I was told I wouldn't live past 35. I had seen people die who were in my shape or worse shape. So I had a choice to make. And choosing to live when you have like major depression and trauma is like it's a real mind effort, because it's like you're so used to telling yourself you don't deserve to live, and then all of a sudden when you choose to live and you choose to go through what you go through to survive, it's pretty remarkable. But that's where it all started. And ever since, I've just stayed on a path where I practice every single day. And that's what led me here. So I love it. Joseph Goldstein, as I say, I do a lot of, I really love lectures and stories and hearing about how the East came to the West and how the West had discovered the East, and then how they all sort of were hippies and did a bunch of things. And so the ramdas.org podcasts are great. As I say, Joseph Goldstein's there. He also teaches his own stuff. He does a whole lot of stuff. So if it resonated with you, and again, this is just an oracle deck that I picked up. These are just reflection cards. It's mindfulness to reflection. And then, as I can see, it looks like there were about 107 people whose energy made its way to this session. And with about 1 minute to spare. So one of my little personal sayings is a tweak off of loving kindness meditation. But I say, may I be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may all be happy. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you again, Kali Lula, for joining. So reach out if it resonates. And if not, we'll see you soon. Okay.